Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our Training Tuesday. I'm Derek Reeves, Procurement Training Specialist for CPOGS, and I will try to be brief because we have something planned for you today. All right. On our agenda today, we will have some updates and reminders, a special guest to provide some great information on commitment and diversity, where you can find bid by training and other training opportunities, and then a great life hack. Updates and reminders. First reminder is CPO Notice 2023.08 FY23 Procurement of Domestic Products Act Compliance Report from April 1st through May 31st, 2023 was due on June 30th, 2023. If you haven't already, please email your completed report to your state purchasing officer as soon as possible. Also, just to let you know, CEI issued a notice 2023.3 on 6/28, 2023. If you have any questions, please reach out to CEI. Lastly, I just want to let all know that the Secretary of State has a new website that is up and running. So go take a look around whenever you get a chance. All righty. And then without further ado, because we have a great amount of information for you, I would like to pass the ball over to our special guest, our diversity, equity, inclusion procurement specialist, the wonderful Melissa Mooney. And Melissa, whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Derek. Good morning. As Derek announced, my name is Melissa Mooney, and I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Procurement Specialist for the CPO General Services Office. I'm here today to talk to you about our revamped commitment to diversity evaluation factor. And I promise to make this as painless as possible for everybody. As we go through, if you have any questions, feel free to throw those into the chat for me. I will take a look at those at the end, and as time is available, I will answer as many of those as I can. Otherwise, we'll get started with just a quick reminder of what the commitment to diversity evaluation factor is. So this became a part of the Illinois Procurement Code almost about 2 years now, and I know a lot of our agencies are very familiar with the evaluation factor. You guys are using it in your RFPs in an ongoing basis. And just a quick reminder here of what is required to be a part of the commitment to diversity evaluation factor. As we look at some of these new questions and evaluation pieces that we have come up with and have rewritten. So we want to look at how often our vendors on their own are contracting or subcontracting with those WMD businesses, how often they are supporting them in doing things like obtaining lines of credit, figuring out how to purchase and pay for insurance or bonding, purchasing necessary equipment. How much of their spend from their prior year's revenue is related to those WMD businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the details here. Whether the vendor has a written supplier diversity program. And again, we'll get into specifics about that as we move forward. And then a look at their staff, their governing board, their executive or management group, what percentage of those groups are women, minorities, or persons with disabilities. So probably not anything new for you guys, but as we started to look at the commitment to diversity evaluation factor, we were getting a lot of feedback from our APOs and our SPOs on what was working and what needed to be reviewed. And so this was a little bit of the feedback that we were receiving from all of you. And these really became the focus of revamping the evaluation factor. I will tell you that my partner and I, Bree, as we started this process, we knew that we had two goals. The first was to make this as simple as possible for our APOs who are overseeing this process in terms of the evaluation. And the other part was to not only make this simple for our vendors, but to create a system that allowed them to improve their participation as they receive their scores back, as they kind of take a look at things. We really are going to be encouraging vendors to request a copy of their commitment to diversity evaluation, with the idea that as they see where they're being scored, they're able to make new and ongoing investments in their community to kind of move that needle, not only on their score, but to really have an impact in their community. One of the things that we really loved about working on this was that our CPO, Ellen Daly, gave us kind of a mission statement herself without really meaning to, when she said that as vendors learn about the evaluation points and take steps in their business practices to earn them, our RFP procurement method can bring about systemic change in how procurement is seen and valued. And that is really kind of what we are aiming for as we move forward with this new system. So what we did as a team is we went back and we reviewed the data that had been gathered by a group of attorneys and leaders in diversity, equity, and inclusion. They'd done a lot of research looking at programs across the country and really talking about what they felt were the most impactful evaluation factors. I think one of the really exciting things about this particular evaluation factor is there's no other evaluation factor or situation similar to this happening across the country. So Illinois is really leading the way by opening up the RFP process and creating an opportunity for vendors to work to improve their score as they impact their community. And again, that's something that's really exciting about what's going on here. So we read through their reports. We really took the factors they suggested and then looked at the research again from across the country, across the world, around what other companies were doing, what other states were doing, and how they were wording things as we went to write those evaluation factors ourselves. And so none of this was kind of pulled out of thin air. All of this is very based in the data and the research that we did. And then we went back and looked at the data that had been gathered on the commitment to diversity evaluation factors previously. And we kind of looked at those scoring sheet, we looked at the comments that were being provided, we looked at the scores that were provided, and that also helped to guide us as we moved forward. And so what has changed is that we have, again, tried to make this as easy as possible for both agencies and vendors, including easy access to information and documents that can help our vendors improve their scores, that can help agencies as they're doing their evaluations. We're hoping that this will help to create uniform factors and scoring across all agencies. There will be clear guidelines for everybody that will be easily accessible. We have lots of great new documents. We are going to have a web page that will have all of this information on it. Everything is written in a clear and concise manner and really focuses on the vendor's actions. Probably one of the biggest pieces is that verification of what the vendors are claiming is now going to be the responsibility of the vendor and not the agency. So we really tried to eliminate the agency needing to call references or to call to verify participation in anything. And then we have created a pre-calculated score sheet that will not only score your commitment to diversity, but then will take into account your technical score and give you that 20% commitment to diversity score automatically with no math on your own, because I know I don't like math. So anything that does math for me makes me very happy. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of the documents and job aids and websites that we have coming that are going to support this program. So in order to just ensure that it's easy and accessible for everything, we have tried to put on paper or put into document every single part of this process so that both our agencies and our vendors have the references they need. So we have our official scoring sheet. We have a worksheet that we will review with you guys. There is a comprehensive agency and vendor guide that include all of the documents, the definitions, where to find things. We are going to have resource lists on our website that share schools, opportunities for investment and time spent with different companies and small businesses in different areas, and then scholarship opportunities so that vendors can find new ways that they can engage with those organizations and earn themselves more points. We're going to be posting training videos specific to the evaluation process, to the submission process for both vendors and agencies, so that you guys have refreshers and ongoing training for new employees. We have visual aids that will be available. And coming soon, we're going to have a new DEI webpage that will be a part of the CPOGS website. And everything that we show you here today will be available for download or print. Like I mentioned, we want everybody to be as comfortable and confident in this process as they can be. So our comprehensive guides are exactly that, comprehensive. They have every document in them that an APO or a vendor will need. Those documents can be removed individually. If you just want to print the worksheet, you can do so. But they are available to you, including definitions for all of the terms that are used throughout the process. And those are going to be available on that DEI webpage, along with our visual aids. So these are visual aids that agencies and vendors can print out, have available, that basically walk everybody step by step through the process of completing a commitment to diversity submission for our vendors or the evaluation for the agencies. Having these visual aids is not only very helpful, but it's part of that equity and inclusion piece. And so these are available to look at on the website, or you can print them out, have them hanging up at your desk, or just as a reminder. And then, as I mentioned, this handy dandy scoring sheet, which my partner Bree spent a lot of time building. And the purpose of this is simply to make scoring and moving your comments over to your score sheet as easy as possible. So the same score sheet will be used by everyone, by all agencies and evaluators. And the way that we have formulated the scoring for commitment to diversity ensures that the max number of points anyone can get at any time is 100 points. And that's part of what helps us to be able to take whatever your max technical score is going to be and use the commitment to diversity points to figure out exactly what your 20% actual score is. It self-calculates, so it removes human error. We did find in some of our data, as we went back and looked at former evaluations, that there were math errors that had been made and not caught. Sometimes that was in the vendors that was good for them, and sometimes it wasn't so good for them. So we want to make sure that we're taking that out of the equation and simplifying this as much as possible. And then, like I said, it's scalable to any technical score. So you can add whatever your maximum tech points are, and it will calculate for you what the final commitment to diversity score should be so that it's 20% of the total tech score. All right, so in terms of our website, as you can see, if you're familiar with the CPOGS page, at the very bottom, we have all of our links. We've added a new diversity, equity, and inclusion link here. It is not active yet. We are in the process of getting everything completed, but that will be up eventually. In the meantime, although we're going to run through the factors here a little bit quickly today, we are going to be rolling out training for our agencies. And this will be an in-depth training where everybody can ask all the questions they want. We can talk about problems that may come up. We want to make you guys as confident in this process as we can. As I mentioned, we're going to make the training videos. Those will be available at all times on the website. And then Bree and myself will be here as ongoing support for agencies and vendors to support as we kind of roll this out and get this started. So let's take a quick look at the new factors. As we go through these slides, what you're going to notice is that there are images that of each of the factors, and those are from, oh, my lights just went out. Those are from our documents that we have, and I'll demonstrate for those for each of you as we go through. So our first factor question as part of this factor is one that is required. You have to push the button, actually. Sorry, someone came in to try to turn on my light because I'm in the, there we go. We have automatic lights and they just go out on their own all the time. Is the BEP goal compliance question. So this is something that's required to be a part of this process, but it's also required just in order to submit a bid. If you don't put a U plan in or determine that you've made a good faith effort, then you can't move on in the process. Because of that, this has the lowest score and it's basically a pass fail. So if you have provided your U plan or you have submitted your good faith effort waiver, then you're going to get those 5 points. If you have not, then you're not going to get those points. Pretty simple. Again, like I mentioned, so we have what will be our vendor submission sheet, which will have check boxes that the vendors can check as they are going through so that our evaluators know exactly what they need to be looking for. Our scoring worksheet, which evaluators will be able to use to make notes on, to put their scores on. It's kind of going to be their scratch work page. And then our official scoring sheet that you will enter your final scores into, and they will add all of those up. So again, BEP goal compliance, this is specific to this procurement. Have you completed your U plan and submitted it? If for some reason there is no BEP goal for that procurement, they get the 5 points automatically. We did that to simplify scoring so that we didn't have to have a whole nother set of scoring documents or processes. So if there is no need for a U plan, they still get the 5 points. Number 2 is subcontracting or contracting with WMD businesses outside of that required U plan for that particular procurement. This is something that is evaluated frequently when looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion participation for businesses. We want to see how often on their own these businesses are engaging with these smaller women, minority, and person with disability owned businesses. So this can be a business hiring a WMD firm to do some work around their own office. They need somebody to paint their walls, or they want somebody to manage their groundwork. They can list that in this list. This could be where they've subcontracted with other WMD businesses on other contracts outside of the immediate procurement. And what we're going to ask our vendors to submit is what you see on the screen. This is part of their vendor submission worksheet. So we want the contract purpose, the name of the vendor, what makes them diverse, their type of diversity, their address, phone or email, length of contract cost, and percentage from overall spend. And they will then be required to submit their verification of that relationship. So that verification, we'll talk a little bit about this at the end, is maybe a contract or an MOU that they have with that particular person. It could be a written reference that comes from the smaller business, but we're looking for that verification in those forms, and those should be uploaded with their submission. And then again, we look at the scoring. For right now, a lot of these are very simple as we kind of start to set our base. But as long as they have contracted outside of the immediate BEP goal with one other subcontractor, they're going to get 10 points for that work. We move on to number 3, which is DEI spend. Again, through our definitions, we define spend very clearly for both our evaluators and our vendors. And we're going to be looking at these amounts based on a calendar year, which again is part of all of that explanation and training we're going to be doing on our vendor side. We will make that very clear for them. We did a lot of research here around typically what do companies spend on any sort of charitable giving. And what we found was that for small companies, there's typically an average of about 6% of their profits that they give to charity. And that can be any charity, not specifically DEI. For our larger companies, it's around 0.94%. So we knew we had to figure out a way to kind of balance that and make sure that the scoring is fair. And so the scoring has been weighted to ensure that whether they're small or big, what they're donating is being measured the same. And again, what we're going to ask for from our vendors here is a list of where they've spent that amount and doing what. And they again have to provide verification that will be uploaded. There is a list here of suggested verification methods, loan contracts, receipts, fundraiser flyers, references that have been provided, and then an option for other in case they have some other way to verify that information. And then again, we're going to look at how many items they listed, what the total percentage of their spend equaled out to, and then the scoring for that. And so we figure anything 2% plus is really a great amount to be spending on DEI, considering what we saw in our data. So that would get you 20 points, and it goes down from there. The spend does not have to be with a BEP certified business. So it can be with any small business that identifies as a WMD business. And that verification will come through whatever they submit as part of their packet. Then we also wanted to look at DEI time. So a lot of times for our smaller businesses, money is not something that they can give, but they can give their time in supporting other small businesses, in working in their community in other ways. And we really wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity for our businesses to include that time. So again, we're going to look at the time that they're given, based roughly around a typical 8-hour workday in a year. And again, because so many businesses and individuals give to so many different charities, we didn't want to max anybody out or make it impossible for anybody to get those scores. So we're going to start with that 8-hour window. We're going to look again at what kind of work they're doing, how much time they spent, and then they have to provide that verification. Again, it can be an event flyer, it can be a reference. It doesn't have to be something that we necessarily have listed here, as long as they mark other and they kind of include what that is and it makes sense and it verifies that action, then we're going to review that and give them those points based on that. We are rounding up our hours because we know sometimes people will mark like I was there for 45 minutes or I was there for an hour and 15 minutes. We're always going to round up to the next hour, just to, again, simplify scoring for everybody and to make it as attainable as possible. With a quick reminder here that we want our vendors to be engaging in these activities. So we want to make it a little bit easier for them to get the points so that they're encouraged to continue to do these activities, to spend this money, knowing that they can increase their overall points for this particular evaluation factor in the RFP process. Next, oh, here's our scoring for time, excuse me. So this would be the worksheet that is available to our evaluators, and then this is our final scoring sheet as well. Next, we're going to talk about DEI policies. And this is probably one that I know we're going to get a lot of questions on, and that's because as we really looked at the DEI policy space, what we found was that intention was sometimes mistaken for action. And so we would see very nicely written mission statements about DEI concepts, but no actionable policies. And we really want to focus on actionable policies. So what does that mean when you're looking at these as an evaluator? If someone is writing about how they believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, how they want to put that into practice in their business, and they believe strongly in using smaller businesses, that is a mission statement or a goal statement versus a policy, which would be something like in our example here, where a business could say, we have started a number of employee resource groups. So we have employee resource groups for women in business, for minorities in business, for people with disabilities in business. And our staff are encouraged to participate in any of those groups, and they're given 1 paid hour a week to participate. A written policy could be that staff are allowed 2 hours a quarter to engage in community support of any women, minority, or disabled owned businesses. And so as we're scoring these, that is what we're going to be looking for, is actionable plans. When our vendors upload these, they either have to upload the actual policy or a screenshot from their website that lists the policy, if that's how they prefer to present it. And in scoring, we're going to look at, are they present and are they actionable? And if they are, they'll get the full 10 points for that. If they are not provided, or if they are not actionable, then they will get a 0. We understand that there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room here with our evaluators. And so our job in terms of this is going to be in terms of training the vendors on the other side about the importance of making sure that these policies are actionable and clear for our evaluators so that they can get the points. And then finally, we're going to look at diversity and staffing. This is one I know that a lot of our APOs have been using with their evaluators. I think that one of the things that's really changing here is that we're looking at each group individually. So we're going to be evaluating the percentage of staff, then separately the percentage of executive or governing board, and again separately management or supervisor. And that's because we should see, first of all, we want to make it reasonable for some of our smaller companies versus some of our larger companies who are going to have way more people, which may mean that their numbers are lower. But the percentages of staff versus percentages of management or supervisors should be relative. We want to see what they look like compared to each other. And hopefully over time, we want to see those improving. So this is an area where our vendors can easily earn more points, is by being aware of where they're at and looking at how they can increase those numbers moving forward. So again, this will be provided by the vendor. They will be asked to provide the number of WMD staff versus the number of total staffing, and they need to identify the types of minorities. And they will need to attach a list of their staff with their role and the type of diversity they represent. And so that will be submitted as well. And then we score each section based on their role again. And each of these sections get a score that go into our total final scoring piece. Again, we're going to be rounding up to the next percentage just to keep the scoring as simple as possible for everybody. So those are the 6 evaluation factors that we have rewritten. I'm sure all of them are recognizable. They're very similar to the ones that we're using. Again, what we've tried to do is really simplify the process for everybody who's involved, take a little bit of the onus off of the agency who has a lot going on. And I know evaluators are sometimes difficult to get together. So hopefully this will make this a little bit simpler, including what verification becomes. So as we've mentioned, our vendors, our offers are going to have to upload with their submission verification for everything they're claiming in the commitment to diversity submission sheet. And they're going to, as we train them, what we're going to tell them is they're going to save and label things according to what it is supporting. So if it's something that's supporting DEI time, it will be saved as such, so that when our evaluators sit down, they'll have everything they need in front of them. And there shouldn't be any need to have to go back and search for documents or have to pick up the phone and call anybody. It will all be there for you. And so probably the most important part of this slide is that last sentence in red. If the document is not present at the time of evaluation, then the vendor will receive a score for that activity. There is no way to cure that. We're going to make it very clear that it has to be submitted. They should be lining all of that up, organizing all of that as they're putting that together. So if you sit down to do an evaluation and the flyer for the Respecting Personal and Cultural Diversity talk that they claimed they did is not present, then that particular situation is not going to be able to receive a score. Not the factor as a whole, but that activity. And as we looked at that scoring, you saw that those activities are numbered. There go my lights again. And so instead of getting points for 5 activities, they're only going to get points for 4, and that can impact their final total score. As another side note for this as well, going back to the concept of comments, comments are going to be really important as a part of this process for a couple of reasons. First, as I just mentioned, if you're scoring a submission and you're missing a verification, we'd like to see that in the comments so that if the vendor has questions coming back or if they want to look at their scoring so that they can hopefully improve, they're able to see specifically what was missing. And then they know, okay, I need to get that in there. But the other thing is, again, we want this to kind of be a living, breathing part of the RFP process. And we want to see these changes as we're rolling this out, as our vendors are using it and our agencies are using it. And so comments are going to be really important as a part of that so that they can learn as they go and they know where they need to find their improvements at. All right, so I know that was a lot of information in a short time. I'm going to look really quickly here to see if we have any questions. Let me pull this up here.
Can you see them? If not, I can read them to you.
Oh, nope, I'm just going to hit stop and there we go. Okay. Okay, so Lisa says that they're working on an RFP document right now. Where can she find those documents today? If you would like to use those, I can supply those to you. I'm more than happy to do that. We are hoping to have the website up within a week. So at that point, they'll be available there. So that would be, I'm happy to send those to you. Just let me know. You can just shoot me a quick email and I'll put my email into the chat for everybody and let me know. I will say that my partner Bree is currently out on maternity leave, so I am the Lone Ranger right now, but I'm happy to kind of send that back. So the max points, Chelsea, will never go over 100 for commitment to diversity if you're using this system. And it automatically, it doesn't really matter if and again, I'm not a math person, the form calculates based on your total technical points. But if you're using our scoring sheet, the scores will never go over 100. And even if, I think the example that we have on there right now is like the technical score is like 566. The form will automatically figure out for you what that 20% is and then what the actual score should be so that you can show that on your final evaluation piece. So it actually figures all of that out for you, but no, the commitment to diversity score, if you're following our system, does not ever go over 100 points. Sheen asked, what sort of comments are you anticipating will be made? I would hope that we're going to get comments on why evaluators are scoring the way they are, whether that is vendors submitted 5 activities, all support was available, giving score of blank, or vendor submitted 6 activities, only support for 3 activities, so score is blank. And again, the reason for that is because we really want that to be a roadmap for our vendors to come back, be able to take a look at that and know, okay, here are things I can do to improve my score for next time. And we want to be able to support them in doing that. So again, at the end, we can kind of get that systemic change. It doesn't have to be a huge write-up, but just some idea of why they scored that way so that our vendors have a roadmap to get back to making some improvements. So that is the last question in chat. As I mentioned, we're going to be rolling out some more significant trainings for this, so keep your eyes and ears open for that. I'm hoping that we will have our webpage up within the next week and we'll have everything available for you there. In the meantime, if you have any questions or need anything, please feel free to email me at the address I just put in the chat. And I will turn it back over to Derek. Thank you guys so much for your attention today. We're really looking forward to getting this going and seeing the outcome and impact it's going to have on our communities. So thank you very much. Derek, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Wow, phenomenal. Great job too, by the way. Thank you for sharing, just so much great information with us. It's so greatly appreciated. Just a reminder also, this is being recorded and we will have it posted on our CPOGS website here shortly as soon as the video is done rendering. Thank you again, Melissa, for your time. Just some final reminders for upcoming events to tie things up. We have our next Introduction to Procurement course, Wednesday, August 2nd. This is an introductory course for high-level view of Illinois procurement with topics such as who is involved in Illinois procurement, procurement methods, vendor requirements for state contracts, communications, and more. So if you're interested, please register with the provided link. Next, our monthly bid buy training will be tomorrow, July 12th, 2023. This is good for anyone who might be new to procurement or would like a refresher on a specific topic. We have provided the agenda and the times for you to conveniently be able to hop on, hop off for your specific topic. No registration is needed for this training. Lastly, we're right there. Our bid buy practice sessions will be July 13th and July 20th. These practice sessions are informal and collaborative. They allow users to walk through examples with trainer assistants, share screens, etc. Alrighty. We'd like to provide this slide and links within the slide for those who would like to find bid buy training and other procurement training opportunities that are offered. Also, the video will be available in our training center as soon as it's done. Then our life hack. When you arrive at a location, this is very great. When you arrive at a location for an outing, take a picture of your kids. You will have a picture from that day with what they were wearing as a quick reference in case of any kind of emergency. This is very helpful, and I also will be using this. I think this is phenomenal. Again, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us at cpogs.training@illinois.gov. Thank you for your time, and please remember, we are here to help. You guys are wonderful. Thanks again.